Hello and welcome to Whose Turn Gaming. My name is Craig and today we're going to be going over the 1 to 5 player game Architects of the West Kingdom. Architects of the West Kingdom is a game by Garfield Games. It's in the same realm as Paladins and Viscounts, and I personally think it's one of the better games in the three. We also have a playthrough of the game. If you'd like to see how the game plays, go ahead and click the link below. Anyway, I'll get it all set up for you here in 1 second, and I'll be right back. Here I have laid out the 5 playable architects. We have Ada, Rudolph, Caroline, Teresa, and Frederick. On the player boards, you will notice that there is 2 sides to each one. There's an A and a B side. There's no direct symbolism as in like A or B written on the cards. Just know that on the B side, up in the top right corner, you'll be able to see the breakdown of how things are distributed at the start of the game. That is an alternate start, and I will not be explaining or setting up that in this demonstration. So I'm just going to be using the basic beginner setup, the A side. And you can tell by not having anything up in the right hand corner. At the end of the game, you'll score various victory points based on your buildings you construct, how far in the cathedral you have built, your renown, your debt tokens. You'll gain 1 victory point for every gold or marble you have. You'll gain 1 for every 10 silver, and you'll lose 1 victory point for every 2 meeples you have in the prison. Alright, to start, you'll want to take out the board and center it in the middle of your playing area. At the start, you'll want to take the green-backed cards and place them to the left of the workshop here. You'll want to take the blue-backed cards, shuffle them, place them to the right of the player board, and fill all 8 slots of the worker track. Next, take the black market cards and place them face up on the small market side, and that is determined by this little blood spot on the far left corner. Next, you want to take the debt tokens debt side up and place them to the right of the prison. Then you'll want to take the reward cards and place them face down next to the cathedral. And to start out, the tax stand gets 4 silver in the tax stand and then passes the rest to the player on their left. This proceeds until there is only 2 cards left, at which point the player decides to keep one of the cards and discard the remaining card face down under the building deck, resulting in each player having 3 building cards. These are kept hidden and secret to every other player in the game. At random, select a first player. First player starts with 3 silver, and each other player starts with 1 extra silver, where player 2 will start with 4 silver, player 3 would start with 5, and so on. Next, you'll take out all your meeples and place them on your player board. And lastly, put all the resources in an easy to reach area for all the players. All resources are unlimited, and if you ever see yourself running out of resources, you can use the multiplier cards to put some of the resources back into the supply. And that is the setup, and next we'll go into the rules of how to play Architects. Players take their turns by placing one of their workers on one of the various locations on the board. On the board, you'll notice that certain areas have large circles and others have smaller circles. Those specify whether only one worker can be in that spot or multiple workers can be in that spot at any one point in time. No limit to the amount of workers that can be in one of the large circles. There are various locations such as the mines, the quarry, the forest, the silversmith, the king's store, the town center, the workshop, the black market, the tax stand, and the guardhouse that you can choose from, as well as working in the cathedral and the guild hall. I'll go over these as we see them. Right now, I will explain the mines. You'll gain 1 clay plus 1 additional clay for every worker you have in the mines. So in this instance, when you have 1 worker there, you'll gain 1 plus an additional 1 for the worker that you have there. In future turns, when you go to the mine and you have more than 1 worker there, you can then choose to either gain the clay or the gold. If you choose to gain the clay, you'll gain the 1 clay plus 1 extra clay for each additional worker you have there. So you gain 3 clay, or you can choose to gain 1 gold for every 2 workers you have in the mines. In the quarry, you can gain 1 stone for every worker you have in the quarry. And that's the same for the quarry and the forest. The silversmith, you'll gain 1 silver plus an additional silver for every worker you have in the silversmith. So in this instance, with 2 workers, I would gain 3 silver. If you choose to go to the tax stand, you'll place 1 of your workers in the tax stand area and you'll collect all the taxes that are in the tax stand. But doing so results in you losing 2 virtue. And that is what these symbols are for. Much like with the tax stand, when you lose 2 virtue, if you go into the black market, you have to pay 1, 2, or 3 silver, as well as go down 1 virtue on the virtue track for each of these 3 spaces. The middle space allows you to get any 1 worker from anywhere on the track, or draw 5 building cards and keep 1. At any point when you have more than 6 building cards, you must discard down to 5 at the end of your turn, and you may only have 5 total workers at any point. If you ever purchase a 6th one, you may discard any worker that you have already purchased. Any of the rewards gained from that worker are not lost upon discarding that worker. Placing a worker on the left black market, you get to use the small market. If a player chooses to take the large black market slot, they must pay 3 silver and lose 1 virtue, but they can then receive 2 marble, a stone, and a wood in return. If at any point all 3 black market spots are filled, that triggers the black market reset. When that happens, the small market card is then flipped over and placed on top of the large market, revealing a new large market and small market card. The 3 workers on the 3 spots of the black market get moved into the prison. Lastly, when the black market resets, you'll take a look at the players in the prison, and for anyone who has 3 or more, you'll lose 1 virtue, or the player or the players with the most workers in prison also gain a debt token. In this instance, only the green player will gain a debt token. If the player puts their worker in the king's storehouse, they can choose either of the 2 options in the storehouse, and they can do that action as many times as they have workers in the storehouse. This top action allows you to take any two resources in any combination of stone, wood, or clay to gain one virtue, or you can take three resources in any combination of stone or wood to gain one marble. Alternatively, if you also have a worker that has King Storehouse abilities noted on the bottom here, this one is the trader, you may also do their action instead of one of the other two actions listed on the board. In this instance, you'd be able to trade 2 stone for 1 marble. Next, I will explain the workshop. As you can see here, there's 4 silver coins, but 2 of them are red in color. What that means is of the 4, 2 will go back to the supply and the other 2 will go over to the tax stand. After paying the 4 silver, the player may then choose one of the workers on display. They have 3 workers here, so that allows them to go out 1, 2, 3 on the track. If they would like to purchase one of the workers in the far end, they would simply have to play 1 silver on the first one to skip that one. And then they can start from here with 1, 2, 3 workers, allowing them to pick up the squire. The squire, when purchased, has an immediate action of gaining 1 virtue. So when they receive this card, they'll immediately go up 1 virtue, and at every black market reset, if they have no workers in the prison, they'll gain 2 additional virtue. Once the player receives or takes their card, it is immediately filled to the rightmost. If there is an instance where, let's say, the swindler was taken instead, the rest of the cards are moved over to the left and a new card is filled in the rightmost open slot. If in the future a player takes the merchant, they will receive all the silver on that card that was placed there, as well as receiving the card itself. Next, I'll be explaining the town center. In the town center, when you place a worker there, you'll be able to capture 1 set of workers on another location for every worker you have on the town center. For the first one, you'll pay 1 silver to the tax stand because it's red, and you'll be able to capture the meeples on one of the other locations on the map. Since there is 2 workers here, you can do that action an additional time by playing additional silver to the supply, and you'll be able to capture 2 additional workers from a separate location. In a 2 or 3 player game, you can choose up to 2 locations. In a 4 or 5 player game, you can only choose 1 location. And the last position I'll go over is the guardhouse. The guardhouse, when you place a worker here, you have one of 4 different actions. You can either take your captured workers that you captured from the town center, releasing them into the prison for 1 silver for each one. In this instance, I released 4, so I would gain 4 silver. Also, you can place a worker in the guardhouse to receive all your imprisoned workers back to your supply. The third option in the guardhouse is you may pay 5 silver, or gain a debt token and go down on the virtue track to release all captured players from another player's player board back to your supply. And the fourth and final action you may take at the guardhouse is paying 6 silver, 3 of which going to the tax stand and the other 3 to the supply, to pay off 1 debt token, resulting in 1 virtue. All paid off debt tokens are saved on the side of your board for end game scoring purposes, as there's certain workers and apprentices that affect your debt tokens at the end of the game. To work in the cathedral, you must first take one of your workers and place it on the first open slot in the guild hall. Pay 1 gold and discard 1 of your unused buildings back underneath the bottom of the deck. That will allow you to go up on the Cathedral track 1 spot. When you do that, you also draw 1 of these Cathedral cards and gain the reward depicted. This time it would be gaining 2 virtue. These are then discarded face up to the bottom of the board. To build one of the cards in your hand, you must take one of your workers and place it in the guild hall to play it out. In this instance, I'll be playing the trading post. This one requires you to have an apprentice with the hammer, as well as 1 wood, 3 stone, and 2 gold. When playing this card at the end of the game, which is depicted by this flag, you'll gain 1 virtue for every 4 stone, wood, or clay you have at the end of the game in any combination. Apprentices have one of 3 different skills when purchasing that are used to build buildings. Those 3 are carpentry, masonry, and tiling. In the guild hall, in a 2-player game, only the first 3 on the rows are available. So a total of 12 buildings and improvements to the cathedral can be done before the game ends. This symbol here is the same as the symbol in the black market reset, signifying when this spot is filled, it will trigger an automatic black market reset, regardless if there's 3 guys in the black market at the time. Once the last meeple is placed in the guild hall, that will be the end of the game, and each player will have 1 additional turn. At the end of the game, you will gain victory or lose victory depending on where you are in the virtue track. As you see here on the virtue track, if you go high in virtue, you'll gain additional points. But after you go past 10, you are no longer able to go into the black market. Also, if you go down too far in virtue, you are no longer able to gain improvements in the cathedral, but you'll also pay 1 less tax every time you go to one of the tax locations on the board. But you'll also lose victory points at the end of the game. If at any point you're at the lowest possible spot and you're to lose additional virtue, you instead gain a debt token. If you're ever at the max and you're to gain additional virtue, you instead pay off debt. If at any point you run out of reward cards, you'll instead gain 1 additional virtue for working in the cathedral. The number of reward cards is equal to 2 times the amount of players plus 1. So in this game, there would be only 5. Once you place a worker in the guild hall, you can never retrieve that worker back. And that's how you play Architects of the West Kingdom. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel if you want to see more of our content in the future, ring the notification bell to be notified of when our next upload will be.